Welcome to Umi and a Cup of Tea, the podcast from Umi where we discuss all things technology, marketing, hotels and travel. So grab yourself a tea, coffee or something stronger and we'll jump right in.
Okay, welcome back for another episode of Umi and a Cup of Tea. We have a fascinating topic today, which I'll get onto in a moment. But more importantly, or more excitingly, is we are introducing Arun in his debut podcast. How are you, Arun?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Now, Arun, you are our digital ads guru, are you not?
That's very kind. Yes.
Good. And the topic of conversation today is Performance Max marketing. I've heard you talking about this a lot recently, rather excitedly, and today we want to introduce our listeners to what Performance Max is so that they can start benefiting from it. So to just broadly outline what we'll talk today, we'll discuss what it is, first of all, what its powerful features are, the benefits to our clients, and what they might expect from implementing a Performance Max campaign. So, Arun, what is Performance Max?
It is a new style of campaign that Google has offered, which is AI-based. And the difference between a Performance Max campaign and a regular campaign that you would have to set up in Google's individual indigenous channels is that it lumps it all together across every single Google network and site partner. So search, display, app, shop. I know that we don't use those for our hotel clients yet, but every single channel that Google has available, as well as its 3 million plus partner sites. This means that your advert will appear on those if you choose to embark upon this exciting new Performance Max marketing. And it has saved a lot of time. It has saved a lot of cost for many of our clients. So it is very easy to set up. It actually links to individual e-commerce partners. So for our case, it would be hotels, but it can link to shops that are set up if they have a Google My Business profile. And everything can be linked into this feed, which is very, very easily centrally managed.
Okay, so I'm hearing that there's a massive time-saving element here and you're getting access to all those different places where you can place your ads. Is it? And you obviously mentioned the AI there. Is it learning from all those different platforms? Previously, was there any information that, was that siloed information before on those different platforms?
The information targeting was there, but the intuitive way that Google now can predict an audience is completely new. So for our case, it's hotels. So we would request general managers of hotels to give us booker data, so people who have stayed at least one night in a hotel. Now, we don't even need to do that. So people who have made a transaction through one of our Google ads for a hotel, the Performance Max campaign will then build an audience based off of that rather than manually uploading an audience into Google Ads. So the beauty of this is that not only is data even more secure, there's no worry about GDPR leakages anywhere across the sales pipeline or the marketing pipeline. It's that Google Ads automatically knows through a process of self-improvement who is more likely to make a conversion and who is more likely to make a bigger conversion, which is particularly pertinent for our clients. So that's the main or the fundamental difference and how AI is helping us here.
Okay, so does that mean then that previously, when creating campaigns, we were working from what we or the hotel manager would be assuming would be the people that are most likely to book, whereas Google is now using the AI to tell us who is actually more likely to book?
Google is telling us and implementing it straight away. If a hotel manager had previously said, I would like American customers, we would be able to target America as a whole, but America is a very large place. The Performance Max campaign will be able to target people across the United States, normally coastal cities, because that's where hotel bookers tend to be for our clients, and assess who is most likely to make a conversion at the right time and who is most likely to make a big conversion at the right time. And that is who it will most likely show one of our adverts to, thus maximizing revenue.
Wow. That's impressive. So what about, I know that you've sort of mentioned before to me about like the maximizing of bid strategy. How does that work?
So this is actually agnostic of campaign. This was slipped in a sales call with Google that you are obliged to have with them occasionally with some account managers earlier this year. He just said, in a passing throwaway comment, oh, by the way, we will start algorithmically favoring bid strategies for maximizing conversion value now. Now, traditional PPC orthodox has suggested that you should always build a campaign around maximizing clicks to begin with. And over the past 15 years, or however long Google Ads has been running, this is what marketeers have been doing. Now, Google is suggesting that maximizing conversions or maximizing conversion value is far more important as a bid strategy. And thus, when we switched our ads over to pursuing bid strategies of maximizing conversion value, we have seen, lo and behold, our ads are appearing more regularly, our top of page rates have improved, our click-through rates have improved, and our conversions have got bigger and bigger. Since I began this role, our ROAS has improved, I think, from 13 to 1 across accounts, up to something like 20 to 1 on average. So pursuing this bid strategy has been extremely valuable for us, not just as in terms of knowledge gathering from Google, but applying that instantly to our clients has made huge differences for them, whereas otherwise they would be at a much lower revenue position at this point of the year.
And are you finding that you're having more success quicker than with the traditional campaign model?
Absolutely. And where PMax kind of comes into its own is rather than having to set up a traditional discovery or prospecting campaign, is what most marketers refer to it, where you're bidding on generic terms. For example, best luxury hotels in London or best restaurants in London, which would be very expensive and very dear to catapult yourself to the top of the results page. Now, the Performance Max campaign, you can just put in the terms that you want people so you could have best hotels and you can have best restaurants, but they will only show to people who are actually about to make a conversion. So in our case, it will be targeting people who have recently made travel plans to London and now they are actively searching for a hotel. So rather than launching an expensive discovery campaign, we are targeting based on intent. And we can actually filter for that within the Google Ads console itself, whereas previously we couldn't. We can build these affinity audiences very quickly. So if someone has an affinity for luxury travel and shopping and eats out regularly within the week, we can target all of those audiences as one audience signal in Performance Max, which is why it is so quick out of the blocks rather than, having to hemorrhage cost as was traditional at the beginning of a campaign to bed in an index. We can do it very, very quickly now.
Okay, so if I'm to understand that correctly, then am I right in saying that previously with the traditional campaigns, you might build, you might set up the ad to target a specific audience, and that audience might be the right type of customer, but they might not be in the right part of their buying journey to see that ad. So they'll see that ad, but it won't necessarily be the right time for them to see their ad. But what you're saying is that it will only show it to that part of the audience that are ready.
Exactly. Ready to make a conversion at the time that we're showing the ad. So rather than just window shoppers who are looking up the best luxury resorts in Mauritius, we are actually targeting people who have just got married and are actively about to book their honeymoon plans. So that is the difference here. And that is why we're seeing more success with Performance Max campaigns than traditional discovery campaigns.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are the features? Well, I mean, you've mentioned a lot of features already, but what's the most useful feature of Performance Max campaign?
Likely the time saving. So before we would have to spend hours editing copy, editing headlines, rejigging wording to make things fit within a 25 character limit, 60 and 90 character limits respectively for headlines and descriptions, etc. Performance Max campaigns take it directly from a client's website. So it uses the tone of voice, the copy, etc., that is all there on the landing pages that have hopefully already been optimized for a Google Ads campaign. So the time saving is incredible, but I think what's more powerful than that is the ability to build multiple audiences in the same audience signal. So we can combine people who have recently booked travel plans with their affinity for luxury shopping, whether they're interested in football, whether they are more likely to drink alcohol or not, what their age is, what their income is, all of these demographics. And rather than manually inputting them, we can just put these as audience signals suggesting what the campaign should be targeting, and Google then improves upon that after having been given that base set of targeting to run with, and then it continuously improves.
Okay. So just to understand how that is different to a traditional campaign. So let's go back a little bit before before we were starting any campaign. How would you be generating those headlines anyway? Presumably there would be some keyword research, and you'd be coming up with some specific terms that you wanted to use. You mentioned obviously optimizing the landing page, because it's always important that the ad that you see reflects what you're going to see on the landing page. So how is that different to what you would do before? Are you still doing the keyword research beforehand and putting those into Performance Max, or is it in some way helping you and suggesting the keywords that you might need to use? How does that work?
For new clients, we would be doing a full audit anyway, and we would be using SEO tools such as SEMrush to figure out organic rankings and how we can improve there anyway. But the beauty of this for an existing client is that with a relatively mature campaign, we can add one of these Performance Max campaigns in, or just a new asset group within the campaign, and it can launch on the same day as long as the client has given us the relevant imagery and video assets. And often we already have the tone of voice correct because we know our clients very well. So there is no need for a back and forth about what headlines are appropriate. We can just go with it straight away because it has taken it from an optimized landing page.
Okay. So you mentioned then that you could launch it at the same time as a traditional campaign, or an existing mature campaign, I think is what you said. So how does that mean the traditional campaign is still working or launched, or is it piggybacking and replacing? How does that work?
The way that Google explained it to us, I took this with a pinch of salt. They said it's better to launch a Performance Max campaign with multiple other campaigns in the same account still running. Now, I took this to mean Google just wants us to spend more money with them. However, we have A/B tested it across clients, and if you have launched a Performance Max campaign just by itself, it doesn't do as well as if there were two other campaigns, for example, for the Performance Max to cannibalize from. So if there was a generic discovery campaign and a branded campaign for the Performance Max to work with, it learns quicker. It has more metrics to figure out an ideal audience, and it just gets out of the blocks even quicker than if it was just set up on its own. I'm not sure if Google have on purpose done this in order to make people spend more money within their platform, but it certainly is working for us, and so that's the strategy that we're adopting at the moment.
Yeah, I suppose, this is an assumption, but I suppose by having the two types of ad run side by side, you're probably seeing how much better Performance Max is performing, and therefore you're going, right, we're going to continue using this then.
Exactly. And it is just much more efficient. Rather than having to bed in a campaign at the start of a campaign, everyone used to say, oh, it will take a couple of weeks to index. These are valuable terms. It might take a while for us to actually appear in the top ribbon. Now, straight away, we appear there. And so we are adding value from basically as soon as the campaign launches, which is very good.
Uh-huh. And so you mentioned that the AI is creating like headlines and copy and stuff like that. Do you get to review what it's running, or does it run far too many variations for you to see? I mean, how do you control that? How do you know that it's doing a good job?
That is a good question, and there are instances where some of our campaigns have generated inappropriate headlines for a couple of clients, but that is because the auto text asset feature was turned on, which is a very small button within the Performance Max settings, where the campaign takes directly from the whole URL rather than the specific URL to our hotel. So if it was a cluster of hotels, it might take the main URL rather than the one that we were working with. So it might talk about an incorrect location or an event that was not relevant to our client, which we have had to manually change then. And we couldn't work out why it was doing this until Harry, our CEO, and I realized that we had accidentally applied this feature of auto-generating text assets based off a landing page. So if you deselect that, you have full manual control and visibility over what is launching in a PMax campaign. If you do select it, be warned that it won't necessarily pick directly from the landing page that you want. It will do it across the entire website. So if you are a client that has multiple properties, you have to make sure that it's not talking about a different property in a different city for an event that's not going to happen. But apart from those small hiccups where, it's relatively untested technology, we're getting there, and there haven't been any errant headlines for a while.
Just out of interest, of the different ads that you're running, has there been any significant? Does it perform with any particular type of ad better than any other, or is it just across the board?
Absolutely. I am glad you asked, Laurence, because it cannot be overstated how important video assets are for Performance Max campaigns. When you want to watch a YouTube video, unless you have an ad blocker, you often have to watch a video, a 15 or 30-second advert on YouTube before you get to the content that you want to see. That is where we are targeting people based on their intent. So if people have recently looked up Condé Nast, or if they have looked up travel plans to a different city, our ads are more likely to show to those people across the YouTube network in particular, which are very, very successful. They have a very good open rate, a very good click-through rate, and a very good conversion rate. So video assets in an advert perform far, far better than any other type of advert. It's kind of the TikTokification of all channels, and we're heading towards increasingly video-centric content. So the clients that have given us good, high-quality 15 to 30-second videos have fared much, much better than ones that give us just static assets, because the Performance Max campaign will generate a video based on those static assets, but it's not as powerful as an actual HQ video provided by a client.
Yeah, I'm getting there's on my desktop computer sometimes if I am maybe watching some YouTube videos, but then I sit back away from the computer and then a video comes on and I can't be bothered to go up and click skip ad. I'm always watching those ads. But they're always really targeted. I find it's always been something that I've been researching or looking up, and they get me more often than I would like to admit.
Excellent.
So yeah, I find it works a lot. Video. So yeah, let's just go over the benefits then. What are the main benefits that our clients are getting?
So we no longer need time for a campaign to bed in. So this is the process of valuable key terms indexing. And traditionally, when a PPC campaign was set up, this is where spend might initially be hemorrhaged at the beginning, whilst these keywords index and some clicks trickle in, which then might result in a purchase or a conversion. Now, straight out of the blocks, we can see which keywords are performing well through search query reporting, auditing. You can filter out what isn't working well, but the Performance Max campaign kind of learns by itself, and it knows exactly which ad to show to the right person, and it also learns over time which landing page is the most useful for that person as well. So landing pages can vary, and URL expansion can vary based on who the ad is being shown to. Secondly, all campaigns across every single one of our clients, they're running better returns on ad spend than a normal generic discovery campaign, because we can now target based on intent rather than just hoping that someone will see something around a really generic high value keyword like best hotel or best restaurant in London. So because of these affinity audiences that we can build, which isn't just exclusive, you can put as many targets in there as you want, combined with whether they have made concrete travel plans or whether they have recently had a life event like a wedding or a graduation, etc. So that is very, very powerful, the targeting. But I think what we haven't mentioned as well is that remarketing has kind of been phased out across the display network. Previously, remarketing had to rely on the display network where you made a specific campaign with people who'd interacted with your site or booking funnel at some point. Now you can wrap it all into PMax. So rather than having a specific remarketing campaign, you can reach new and old audiences at the same time with the same campaign, which is very, very cost efficient.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to ask about remarketing, but you've answered it. I just want to ask you mentioned, just going back a little bit, you mentioned at the beginning and just then about that phrase best hotels in London, for example. So that best hotels phrase, I've always understood that to be kind of like a really difficult phrase to get clicks on or rank for organically, and I'm assuming that would have been quite expensive in a traditional campaign. How are you seeing? Has there been any changes in the performance of that since doing PMax?
Slightly, yes. I mean, it's still across the search network, so we might, if we're lucky, still appear in a very high value auction for those keywords, but we would not be there constantly. So what a lot of clients always want to see is being in the top ribbon for a very, very high value generic keyword or key phrase. That won't always happen with the Performance Max campaign because it's showing it to someone who is more likely to convert at the right time rather than us being in the top ribbon 24/7, at 1 a.m. who is really looking to make a conversion, for example. So it wouldn't show it at that time. But I think more powerfully is that despite being in phasing cookies out and transitioning to a cookieless world, these ads will still follow you around the Google network, whether it is on Gmail or whether it is on YouTube or whether, on any Google site, even search, and also the partner sites, the same advert might follow you around, thus maximizing the amount of time a potential user is looking at our adverts and therefore maximizing the likelihood that they're going to make a transaction, hopefully.
So help me just understand about that remarketing aspect. You said that you can wrap remarketing campaigns into a PMax campaign. So do you have to tell it to do remarketing, or will it do that automatically?
You don't have to tell it to do remarketing, no, because hopefully if you are a good marketeer, your Google Ads account will be linked to a GA4 or previously Universal Analytics account, and therefore you will have a full backlog of who has interacted with the site and how many users there are and who those users are. And you can simply add in audience signal targeting people who have interacted with my business or former bookers or former purchasers through UA or GA4 now. So that there is no need to instruct the campaign to do it in a complex way. It just does it automatically through audience signal targeting.
Good. Well, that sounds helpful. I just want to go back to something you said at the beginning of that answer, and it was about how long it would take usually to bed in, and that's where you'd hemorrhage the spend. Traditionally, how long would you say to a client that a campaign would need to bed in before it started performing well?
As recently as the start of this year, we were warning clients that wanted to bid in these very high value auctions. Expect 1 week or even 2 weeks before we actually index. For branded terms, it's a little bit easier, but up to 2 weeks is what we were suggesting.
Mm-hmm. And now that is reduced to, well, is it immediately or is it just a lot faster?
It is a lot faster. I couldn't put a specific timeline on it, but we're down to days rather than weeks now.
Fantastic. So what effects then, last question, what effects can be expected from implementing a PMax campaign?
Brand awareness is probably the number one. In the background, you are likely to see a massive spike in impressions as a Performance Max campaign gets underway. That's because more eyeballs from your audience signal targeting will be seeing your advert across many, many, many different channels and sites. The second one is that you're likely to see, hopefully, revenue spikes, and you're also likely to see return on ad spend spikes as well as the campaign becomes more efficient. Thirdly, I think what we haven't mentioned yet, Laurence, is that new audiences being targeted are not just necessarily the ones that you're inputting into the campaign and the Performance Max campaign's AI is learning from that. You can also even put competitor URLs in. So previously, especially hotels would bid on each other's brand names in an effort to undermine them and outrank them on a Google results page. Now, there is no need to do any of that. And that actually got a couple of people in trouble with Google because it's deceptive advertising. So now, instead, you simply put a competitor's URL into Performance Max targeting, and one of our adverts will hopefully show to people who have browsed a competitor URL website. So instead of having to hemorrhage money on a keyword of a competitor that is not related to your business whatsoever, our ads are now showing to these people who are browsing your competitors' websites, which is very, very handy.
Well, that was always something I remember as being something appearing to be quite black hat. Is that I know that Booking.com would spend a lot of money on branded ads on your hotel or a client's hotel. And that was very hard to compete with. That's incredible. So you mentioned earlier about the audiences, because this is something that I'm quite interested in as part of the direct booking strategy. We invest a lot of time in understanding our ideal customers, and that is at the point where we would create an ideal guest persona. And traditionally, I would be looking at Google Analytics as a starting point to see who is visiting the website, and trying to piece together a bit of a demographic insight into who that might be, like whether it's age or gender or location, that sort of thing. You'd get a bit of information about their interests and stuff like that, but nothing truly concrete. But then you would be relying on the client themselves to tell you, who their best customers are. But in some cases, I would find that without doing any sort of genuine user research and speaking to their actual users, sometimes there would be an assumption about who their ideal customer was, and I would often fear that maybe they would reflect only on who they currently saw coming to their website, or who they thought that they were appealing to, and they were missing out on people that could potentially want to come and stay at their hotel, but because their website wasn't maybe optimized very well, or it wasn't attracting the right people. Does PMax help you understand more about the potential new audiences out there that could be wanting to come to your hotel but aren't currently coming to your website?
I believe it does sometimes suggest audience segments. So if you go into, I'm just putting it up on my screen so that I can see it. If you have an interest in detailed, there's an interest in detailed demographics section, and occasionally I believe it will include at the bottom of a performance report which segments performed well, but also which ones you're potentially missing out on. So you can add those in if Google is suggesting that if you had added that in as targeting, you would potentially be seeing more conversion value. And then it's up to your discretion or the client's discretion whether you do add that in. It might be more expensive. For example, luxury shoppers, it might be slightly more expensive to appear to those people. But it does predict which audiences are also likely to benefit you. And you can then decide whether you want to add those in.
That is very interesting. I didn't know that you could do that, and I think that could be very useful for implementing our direct booking strategy with our clients to really understand where potential new audiences could be coming from, and to validate who we think our ideal customer is. That's very interesting. Is there anything we've missed?
I don't think so.
Okay. What has been the general feedback to the clients that we've used Performance Max with?
There was initially some suspicion. I think people see AI and instantly kind of get a little bit worried about it, because AI implies there is some degree of autonomy that is managed by a bit of code or a robot somewhere, and therefore it might not align with a specific tone of voice or a specific brand message, etc. But as results have gone on, and we have demonstrably shown again and again that we are generating very good returns here, I think our clients are very, very happy with them and are flooding us now with images and videos on a regular basis, which is ideal to keep these campaigns optimized, and they have very clearly seen the value in it. So it is an overwhelmingly positive feedback.
Great stuff. And final question, Arun, are you an AI? Are you an AI bot? Are you real?
What would an AI bot say?
Is that a trick question? You answered my question with a question.
Well, yes, I would pass the Turing test with that, wouldn't I?
Yes. Well, the jury's out. All right. Well, that's great stuff. I would very much like to see whatever you have in the way of reports and stuff. I think that would be helpful. Like I said, in our clients' implementation of direct booking strategy, and I think some of the information that you are finding out is very interesting, and I look forward to seeing how that could help me with my work as well. I think there's some great insights there coming back from Performance Max. So thank you, Arun. I think that was a marvellous debut episode. We will hopefully get you back again for some more insights. Do you have any burning topics you would like to talk about in the near future?
I'm sure my AI mind can think of something by then, Laurence, but thank you for having me.
Okay, great stuff. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we will be back soon with another episode. Goodbye.